Well, I'm running because, for one thing, we have a one-party system in this state, and I think more people need to get involved. I believe in the original intent, which was to have citizen legislators who would give public service for the public good to the community, state, and country. And I think over the last 200 years, we've developed a professional class of career politicians who are more interested in personal enrichment than they are about the public good. That's the first thing. They also say that the biggest motivator in politics is moral outrage, and I've been morally outraged. I don't like the direction this country has been going in. Individually and my family, I believe that the government has become too big, too powerful, too intrusive into our personal lives. I think it's time to downsize government. You know, this recent financial mess that we're in, a lot of it is due to, they talk about regulation, but it was attempted many times to reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and it was blocked. Even the former president, Bill Clinton, said that when he was in the White House, he and the Republicans in the Congress tried to reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and every time they attempted to do so, the Democrats blocked their efforts, the Democrats in the Congress. And Barney Frank, I think, is the main player here and the key architect of the housing crash and the ensuing financial meltdown.
In what way?
Well, because he thwarted and blocked all efforts to reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. He's going around the country now, I call it the magical excuse tour, and he's going around the country making excuses, telling people that he couldn't possibly do anything because he only became chairman of the House Financial Services Committee in January of 2007. However, that belies the record. If you look at the record, he got on the banking committee in 1981. He became ranking member in 2003. He's a very powerful voice. And as early as 1991, there was a New York Times article and a Boston Globe article pointing out the fact, because it was Barney Frank who encouraged Fannie and Freddie to lower their standards on multifamily housing units. And even though the foreclosure rate was 2 to 5 times that of single-family residences, he encouraged them to lower their standards to get more people into these multifamily units. The New York Times said that we could be looking at another S&L crisis in the making. And over the years, this was in 91, as early as 91. So when he goes around the country saying, oh, I couldn't do anything, I had no power, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't do anything about the war in Iraq, I couldn't do anything about the Patriot Act, this is what he's saying. I was at his press conference on October 6th. So he's right in the middle of this. I think he's the key architect of this. I think because of that, it led to the financial meltdown, because it was this housing bubble that was built up, and some of us saw it coming. I knew 3-4 years ago that this couldn't last. And in the states that speculated more, for example, Massachusetts was a state where they said the housing prices were overvalued by 30%. Pennsylvania, the housing prices in Pennsylvania were undervalued by 15%. So they haven't been impacted by the housing crash. But of course, every state has been impacted by the financial meltdown because credit has become tight. None of the banks trust one another to lend because they don't know how much bad paper they're holding. They don't know if they're going to be in business tomorrow or next week or next month. And so all the states are impacted by that. But Mr. Frank is, he's one of the chief sponsors of big government in this country. I think he's a rigid ideologue. He pushes a socialist model. I think it's caused a lot of harm to the country. And now he's talking about regulating. In fact, he made a statement recently where there are plenty of wealthy people in this country. He wants to take more of their money. So my feeling is, why should we penalize people who work hard and contribute to society, and then in turn, for gosh sake, we had people who were getting mortgages who were on welfare. Bill Clinton, I mean, can you imagine, as a former president, you have the nerve, or you're not embarrassed to say that in retrospect we probably shouldn't have given mortgages to people on welfare? And that's something that I only found out about maybe a month ago. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know people on welfare were getting mortgages. They were using food stamps. They were using unemployment checks. They were that's what they were using for verification of income.